Hi guys, today we are going to look at two different water samples from a lake in Berlin. Even though the water is full of microbial life, this lake in Berlin called Hallensee is considered swimmable.
So here you can see the two samples we took. This one is from where the people actually go into the lake to swim. And this one was from a particularly nasty spot. I will show you the pictures right now. So as you can see, this spot looks like way clearer, the water seems clearer. And here in the other spot, we have some plants, which are basically the food source of other microbial life. So first we are going to look at the water from the cleaner spot, the spot where the people actually go swimming. And we're using a microscope which can go up to 1000 magnification. And we are going to look at it first under dark field with 100 magnification. So what you're seeing right now is 100 times bigger than originally. It looks pretty much like a void, pretty much like a night sky. And there only seems to be some debris in the water swimming around. But once we get closer, it becomes apparent that what seems like stars in the sky are actually organisms that are living or at least were alive. So here we have some footage of the dirtier water. It's not actually dirtier, it's actually just from a part of the body of water which was more alive, so you could see that there was moss growing in there. And these green noodles you're currently seeing on the screen are actually what moss looks like under the microscope.
So basically under very magnified detail.
Yeah, exactly. So you can see like how moss is not actually like one bush with leaves. It's more like tiny strings that
and
swerve.
Vines.
Yeah, more like a vine, but on a microscopic scale. Now, inside of this frame, we actually have two living organisms that you can see, one on the bottom part and one on the left part, which we will look at right now under further magnification. So here on the bigger magnification, we have some sort of Daphnia, which is like in German, it's called Flusskrebs, so like a river crab, that's the name it's given. Let me actually get it into focus. Follow it.
Wait.
So these things are clearly alive. We're having quite some struggle following them. As you can see, there are many of them. There on the top right, we actually saw another form of life. So this water seems to be thriving with life.
Yeah.
Oh my god, what is this?
We More see life.
Yeah, stay there actually. Go to the top, let me get it sharp.
Those looks like, so those little things, we assume they're eggs, right?
Yeah, and the bigger blob, which is moving.
Yeah.
Go towards the right, Rafi.
Okay.
Here. So you see how this is greenish, and if you look closely, it's actually like green bubbles on there. So it's very likely
it does photosynthesis?
Yeah, or at least the things inside of it are. So my theory is that this thing ate a lot of the moss and the branches are getting digested, but it's looking green because it's full of the chlorophyll, which is like the molecule or the part of the salt doing the photosynthesis, which it has eaten. Now it could be the case that this animal is actually not killing the moss cells inside of it, but instead it's using the photosynthesis to basically feed itself from the sun. Or it's just eating it normally. Yeah. So maybe after all of those videos of things moving around in the water where you could swim, maybe you got some fear struck. What if those things get into my body? I mean, when you're swimming around, it happens that you swallow a few drops or maybe you breathe in some water. Well, it is bad news, but mostly actually for the microorganisms that we saw under the microscope. Because what happens to them, Rafi, when they get into our body?
Basically, your immune system is pretty strong. So there's a very, very high chance that your immune system fights them off. And probably the worst thing that could happen...
What? Tell me.
You might get a cold. or something.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, yeah. So
You might
my
get a gold.
friend here is mentioning amoeba, which are some things that can be found in the water that can actually infect your brain as well and start kind of chipping away at your brain. That's like the worst case scenario, but they are very, very rare.
And if it happens, like you have to really get them into your body on purpose. So basically, you have to take the water and like breathe it up your nose. Make sure it goes into your brain. So basically, if you don't want it in your body, then it won't come into your body.
Right. And what are realistic illnesses that you could get are more from bacteria. So the organism we saw moving around, those were actually big organisms on the microscopic.
Bigger.
Yeah, for microbial organisms, they are quite big. And they are not actually dangerous for us because most of these bigger organisms, they reproduce quite slowly. And for us to get sick, you need to have thousands and thousands of them in your body.
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, actually, yeah,
And
you're
then
right.
by the time that happens, by the time it would happen, your body would have taken care of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so basically the chances of you getting sick are slim, and that you dying are so slim that basically
Yeah.
impossible.
Just
You're safe.
yeah, and also the real dangers are not actually the moving things we saw because, as I said, they are so big. It's actually the tiny bacteria. So even the water from the cleaner spot, it was filled with these tiny spots, which were mostly bacteria, and bacteria are able to reproduce very, very quickly inside of our body if they get the chance. So there you could get a common cold or maybe some gastrointestinal issues like where you have to throw up and get diarrhea.
But it's not a big deal. It's not like you have to go to the hospital, everything is wrong. You don't have to.
Right.
You just like all it is just like you may have to throw up a little, you might feel a little bit nauseous. But like take a sleep. Worst case, maybe just get like an IV, some vitamins, and you should be fine by the next day.
Yeah, so just like common illnesses.
Yeah, not a big deal.
Yeah, and maybe to wrap it up, we can say that you are not going to get eaten alive by the microorganisms we saw under the microscope, but nevertheless, you should have some caution of where you go swimming. So this lake is considered swimmable, as we say, so technically there shouldn't be any serious issues with you swimming there, but you need to check the safety of the water you're going to step in.
Yeah.
So in Berlin, for example, there is this website where you can check the safety for every body of water, and some are actually considered non-swimmable, and that's because the concentration is too high of the dangerous microbes. So yeah, it's not like it's
would you mind
totally undangerous.
Would you mind, saying what the website's called?
So for Berlin, for example, you could go onto the website of Berlin, berlin.de, and there you can check the water safety of every public lake.
You could
And
also...
that's a good reference to figure out if the water is safe to swim or not.
Yeah. Bye.